Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
1984 Roger Penrose Cycles of Time, an Extraordinary New View of the Universe. This essay embarks on a critical examination of Roger Penrose's Cycles of Time, an Extraordinary New View of the Universe, a work proposing a bold cosmological model. This analysis refrains from a simple summary or a general introduction to the book. Its central objective lies in a thorough, section-by-section evaluation of the claims, arguments, and specifics put forth by Penrose. The approach adopted demands a diligent unpacking of the conceptual frameworks, methodologies, and supporting evidence presented, scrutinizing their internal consistency and implications. Contextual background will inform the evaluation, its purpose serving to illumine the intricate details of Penrose's propositions. Contemporary reception and subsequent scholarly appraisals are considered, always with the purpose of illuminating the validity and interpretation of the book's core arguments. Section 1 Introduction. A New Cosmology. The introductory segments of Cycles of Time provide an overview of Penrose's central thesis. He proposes a cosmological model, conformal cyclic cosmology, or CCC, a model wherein the universe proceeds through a sequence of eons, each characterized by a Big Bang, cosmic expansion, and eventual transition to a new eon. A core departure from the standard inflationary model of cosmology is immediately apparent. Penrose advances an idea that the Big Bang, rather than being an event of creation from nothing, represents a smooth transition from a prior eon. The distinguishing feature of Penrose's thesis rests on the mathematics of conformal geometry, a branch of geometry that addresses shapes. This allows him to relate the extremely early universe, when matter was exceptionally concentrated, to the latter time universe, when it has undergone vast expansion. Penrose's assertion that there exists a bridge, formed by conformal transformations, between the extremely hot, dense early universe and a vastly expanded late universe is a primary claim, central to understanding his theoretical framework. This introductory chapter sets the stage for his exposition of the concept of conformal transformations, their applicability, within the context of cosmology, and the observational evidence Penrose believes supports his claims. The core argument that the universe perpetually cycles through eons, each beginning with a Big Bang and ending with the transition of matter into a new cycle, demands scrutiny. The initial overview of the CCC necessitates a detailed exploration of the evidence used to support it and to evaluate the plausibility of the foundational concepts presented. Section 2. Conformal geometry and the nature of space-time. Penrose's arguments in support of CCC lean heavily upon conformal geometry. The notion of conformal transformations is vital, and understanding them is key to following his arguments. Conformal transformations, in the context of general relativity, are those that preserve angles, yet might distort distances. Penrose proposes that these transformations offer a valuable means to relate the geometry of the very early universe, which is extraordinarily dense and hot, to the latter time universe, which has expanded to a significantly cooler state. He suggests that the effects on particles of zero mass, like photons, are maintained across the eon boundaries through conformal transformations. The importance of this concept lies in Penrose's assertion that the very early universe may possess characteristics akin to the latter-time universe. This assertion directly contradicts the conventional cosmological model of inflation, which postulates that the early universe underwent an exponential expansion in a brief instant. It becomes essential to address the mathematical formulation of the conformal transformations, the constraints placed upon spacetime, and the conditions under which these transformations are applicable. The application of mathematical structures specific in their nature that allow for a smooth transition from one eon to the next also demands close attention. The elegance of the mathematical framework should not overshadow the practical observational challenges to the theory. The framework needs internal coherence as well as supporting evidence. Section 3. The Big Bang as a smooth beginning. Penrose advances the provocative assertion that the Big Bang, as the point of origin for our universe, was not a singularity arising from nothing. Instead, he suggests that the Big Bang was a smooth transition from the far distant past for a prior eon. This specific claim opposes the standard understanding of the Big Bang, which sees it as a point of infinite density and temperature. The central argument relies on the idea that, due to conformal invariance, the Big Bang singularity is a smooth, not a singular, beginning. The smoothness suggested by Penrose allows for the transfer of information, or the information from the previous eon to the current one. Penrose suggests that the very early universe, characterized by an extremely uniform temperature and density, is in agreement with the observational data, and at the same time, an outcome of the previous eon's transition. The smoothness of this transition hinges on the zero mass of particles, photons, and the underlying mathematical framework. It is important to appreciate how the smoothness of the Big Bang transition allows Penrose to circumvent some of the problems associated with the singularity inherent in the standard model. We must question the mechanisms responsible for such a smooth transition and, critically, the evidence presented by Penrose to support this proposition. Section 4. The Cosmic Microwave Background and its Anomalies. Penrose and his co-authors have turned to the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, as evidence supporting CCC. The cosmic microwave background, or CMB, possesses a nearly uniform temperature across the sky with small fluctuations. Standard cosmological models predict patterns of these fluctuations. Penrose notes specific anomalies in the CMB data that, he argues, are difficult to explain within the standard inflationary model. He suggests these anomalies are echoes from a previous eon, and are a key piece of evidence for CCC. The central concept here is the possibility of Hawking points, or Penrose points, distinct circular patterns detected in the CMB. Penrose asserts that these patterns represent the imprint of black hole explosions from a previous eon. This argument requires an analysis of the methodology and specific data, especially from the Wilkinson microwave anisotropy probe and the Planck satellite, which were used to detect the CMB. A thorough examination of critiques posed, together with any subsequent analysis, is essential to evaluate the validity of the claimed anomalies, their significance, and the strength of their link to the CCC. The interpretation of these anomalies as support for CCC, rather than as mere statistical fluctuations, demands scrutiny, including an assessment of alternative explanations offered by conventional models. Section 5. The role of black holes and late death of the universe. The transition between eons, according to Penrose's theory, relies on the behavior of black holes and the eventual heat death of a universe. As an eon progresses, matter concentrates. Black holes play a crucial role in this process. Penrose suggests that they are, in effect, the primary entities that act as conduits between eons. They are proposed as the means by which information, in particular, the entropy and mass energy of the previous eon is transferred. The eventual evaporation of black holes, via Hawking radiation, is thus critical to the process. A black hole is suggested as a means of extracting the energy from the previous eon, converting it into a form that allows smooth transition to the next. The heat death of the universe, a state of equilibrium with maximum entropy, serves as the endpoint for each eon, the state from which the next eon will begin. The question becomes, can these black holes, and their properties, provide a verifiable mechanism for the transitions between eons? This section presents a direct challenge to the second law of thermodynamics. The mechanisms proposed for the conversion of energy, the preservation of information, and the role of black holes deserve close evaluation. Critically, it demands an assessment of their plausibility within the context of established astrophysical principles, and the challenges these ideas. Section 6. The challenges to inflation and the case for C.C. Penrose's work, in its entirety, is a frontal challenge to the standard inflationary model of cosmology. The inflationary model provides an explanation for the observed uniformity of the universe, the flatness of spacetime, and the absence of other features such as magnetic monopoles. Penrose argues that the inflationary model requires fine-tuning and that CCC provides a more elegant and natural explanation for these observations. Penrose rejects the idea of an inflationary period, suggesting that the early universe was neither a state of infinite density nor an exponential expansion. The advantage of CCC, for Penrose, is its explanation for certain observations, particularly the anomalies in CMB, that the standard inflationary model fails to explain. Penrose advances the claim that CCC, through its reliance on conformal geometry, offers a more straightforward explanation for the homogeneity and isotropy of the early universe. It is important to rigorously compare the success of CCC with the well-established successes of the inflationary model to assess the validity of the critiques levelled against inflation and to evaluate, definitively, whether CCC truly offers a more compelling framework. A careful review of the arguments against inflation by Penrose, the evidence presented in favour of CCC, and the responses to the critiques from the inflationary model will be critical. Section 7. The problem of information and entropy in eon transitions, a central issue in CCC, relates to the preservation and the transfer of information and entropy across the eon boundaries. The second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy, or disorder, in a closed system must increase, presents a challenge. In an expanding universe, entropy tends to increase. Penrose must explain how information can be transferred, without losing its nature, to a new eon. He argues that the entropy associated with massive particles becomes irrelevant as the universe expands. The relevant factor is the entropy of massless particles, such as photons. Entropy, represented as the degree of disorder within the system, would be converted into forms that allow it to smoothly transition from one eon to the next. The core argument is that the entropy associated with matter effectively disappears during the final stages of an eon. The problem of information transfer, the nature of entropy during the transition phase, and the mechanisms postulated by Penrose require careful scrutiny. It is here that the greatest challenges to the theory are revealed, and where the internal consistency of the model is critically examined. Section 8. Observational tests and future directions. Penrose proposes that CCC is, in principle, testable, and he suggests that the anomalies in the CMB may function as empirical evidence in support of his theory. He also proposes other potential observational tests. These include looking for additional patterns in CMB data, searching for characteristic signatures in the distribution of galaxies, and attempting to detect gravitational waves that might offer evidence of the eon transitions. These suggestions for future research are critical to the overall viability of the CCC. They provide a method for evaluating the model through empirical studies. Evaluating the testability of CCC is essential. Critically, the ability to falsify the theory, according to Karl Popper's criteria, is itself a critical consideration. The potential for future research, the design and implementation of novel experiments, and the refinement of the tests must be carefully considered as the theory evolves. Section 9. Critiques and responses. The CCC theory has faced considerable skepticism and has also received critical appraisal from the scientific community. Critics highlight the inherent mathematical complexities and the reliance upon speculative ideas. A primary critique regards the interpretation of the CMB anomalies. Some scientists argue that the evidence provided rests on subjective judgments and on statistical fluctuations, and is not a definitive test of the theory. Others question the assumptions made about conformal geometry and the nature of spacetime. Some also challenge the plausibility of the mechanisms by which information and entropy are transferred. It is essential to carefully evaluate the critiques, to assess the evidence, and to consider the responses provided. The reactions of the scientific community and their consequences are important. Penrose and his collaborators have sought to address these critiques, refining the model and providing further supporting evidence. A close examination of these responses is essential. This includes a review of the critiques levelled against the theory to assess the counter-arguments and clarifications that the authors have provided, weigh the overall impact of these exchanges. Section 10. The philosophical implications of CCC. Beyond the cosmological implications, CCC raises philosophical questions. Penrose touches on themes of time, consciousness, and the potential implications of his theory for our understanding of the universe. At its core, the CCC challenges our understanding of the beginning and the end of the universe. The implications of an eternal cycle of cosmic beginnings and endings are relevant both to concepts of time and our understanding of what constitutes beginnings and endings. The potential for consciousness, which could be a feature of each eon, requires consideration, an evaluation of the philosophical implications of CCC, its connections to other philosophical concepts, and its impact on our worldview are critical. The philosophical reflection provides deeper considerations about the nature of existence. Section 11. Conclusion. The enduring significance of cycles of time. Penrose's cycles of time, while controversial, represents one of the most original challenges to contemporary cosmological thinking. His proposal of conformal cyclic cosmology presents a framework predicated on conformal geometry, and the idea that the universe proceeds through an eternal series of eons. The key arguments, from conformal transformations and the transition of smooth Big Bangs to the interpretation of the CMB, are fascinating, while some of the supporting evidence currently available remains open to interpretation. Penrose's work provokes critical questions. The work's primary significance lies in the challenge it poses to the standard model of cosmology and the alternative that is offered. The strength of the argument rests on the internal consistency of the mathematical framework, the plausibility of the physical mechanisms proposed, and the observational evidence provided. Further research, both theoretical and observational, is needed to test the validity of the theory. The theory's relevance also comes from its exploration of philosophical questions about time, consciousness, and the nature of the cosmos. The enduring impact of this work can be found in its ability to stimulate discussion, propose new models, and push the boundaries of human understanding. Penrose's work, however, ultimately requires a deep scrutiny of his claims, an evaluation of the evidence, and a confrontation of its foundational implications. The legacy of cycles of time is assured, whatever the ultimate fate of the theory itself proves to be.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.